Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. So this year, because of the coronavirus crisis, there's no Telford scale model world run by the IPMS, and a lot of modelers are feeling probably a bit down this weekend because it's an annual fix for most of us. We all go there, meet people we know, and we see companies we want to talk to and buy products we want to buy, mainly the latter. But there's always something new coming out. Of course, Airfix always have their big launches at Telford, and it's really it's an annual event that everybody looks forward to. And it's been, we're deprived of that this year. So I thought I would do 3 short videos, just based on my own experiences. I'm going to call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to have. It's not really about the models themselves so much as the experience of building them, any problems that I've had in building them, or why, in the case of the very good ones, which we have here, why they're so good, and what the experience was like, and what makes it, a great, enjoyable build, and the fact that in those cases of these that I would recommend them to anybody. And then we've got some not so good ones that are still okay, but perhaps disappointed us a little bit. We're calling them the bad, but they're not really bad. And then the ugly. They are the turkeys, the absolute disaster models to avoid if you want to retain your sanity. I'm glad to say there weren't many of those, and there's going to be a very short list, but they are nasty, so be aware. Anyway, we're starting today with the good. So this is a great way to start off. I'm going to have to keep you in suspense. I'm going to do just three of these shows, one every night. And obviously keeping the worst till last, actually. Anyway, we're kicking off with the very best of the best today. So this is not an exclusive list. It doesn't mean that other models are not as good, if not better. This is just the ones that I've built that I've had a really good experience with them, and the fact that I basically recommend you won't have any problems with them. So here they are. Now there's a couple of things that struck me straight away when I made this list up. I've got about 70 odd models in my cabinets to choose from that I could talk about and show you. But it's really weird actually that all of them in the good category, the top category, with one exception, all of them are Tamiya kits, which is probably no accident really. I am a Tamiya fan for the obvious reasons. Their precision, their quality, attention to detail. They get nearly everything right. The only thing that they don't do well is their decals, to be honest. And sometimes we have a few problems with the ejector pins on the mould on the sprues can actually creep onto the parts where you don't want them, but not been a major problem in the kits I've built, to be honest, so far. And the ease of build and the precision and the fact that you don't have to use much, if any, filler or do much sanding, correcting. There's very little work to do beyond the essential building, which means that your enthusiasm can be unleashed on the detailing, doing the fine stuff, the finishing, weathering, the stuff that we really want to make the model look different and give it a character, not trying to just get the basic kit built because the manufacturer couldn't be bothered. So this is what these 3 vids are about. So this is number 1. Let's get straight into it, and I'll do them in order actually, and the one that is my favourite of all is probably not what you expect actually, but we'll get cracking. I'm going to start. I'm not going to handle these too much, although the others I will handle, the less good ones. But we're going to get cracking, and we're going to talk about, first of all, the one that's the odd man out here, which is actually this one, which is the Meng Me163B Comet. So this is Germany's Nazi World War II rocket jet fighter. And sorry, I just realised that there's a second thing I didn't tell you that was odd about this collection. All these are A, aircraft, so you could say it's 3 things. A, aircraft, and B, fighter planes basically, and C, so that's 4 things. C, they're all from 1944, so it's kind of really weird that that's not deliberate on my part. I mean, I've got lots of other kits that nearly made the list. A motorbike, which was excellent, a belt with a working chain and suspension, Formula 1 cars, Ferrari, McLaren, some great tanks, Tigers and Shermans, all nearly made the cut. But these are the ones that are my favourites in terms of the enjoyment. And I think it probably comes down to the fact that aircraft are trickier to build than a tank. A tank's fairly straightforward usually, to be honest. But aircraft have got a lot of seams you have to get rid of. If the kit's not that good quality, you have to do a lot of work to make them look right. So that's why we've ended up with this almost like a 1944 European theatre of operations aircraft list. Not deliberate, it's just the way it worked out. But these are my favourites, best experiences I've had. So, back into the Comet. So it's the ME163B Comet, so this is the rocket-propelled jet fighter. It saw service in 1944 and 45. A bit limited, of course, because it had a very limited range, it had a very limited duration. It was fantastic performance. This thing could climb up to 40,000 feet in about 3 minutes, which is incredible. And a lot of G's and danger for the pilot. Not least of which is when they landed the thing, and there was a habit of the hydrogen peroxide tank cracking or exploding on contact with a heavy landing, flooding the pilot with hydrogen peroxide, which I'm afraid didn't end very well. It would basically, in some cases, melt the pilot's body down to just liquid. Terrifying. So they're quite a dangerous thing to be involved in. But anyway, back to the main model. So, this particular model just made it into the top category, only just because there is one big issue with it, and I've spoken to other models who've made it and they've had the same problem, and it's to do with the wing join. It's not a good fit. They seem to have got everything really good on this model, but they didn't do a good job where it actually meets the fuselage and the wings joined together. But it's a cracking little model, so I'm not going to pick it up and move it around. I did add a few aftermarket small things, nothing major. We had an aftermarket instrument display, which you might just be able to make out there. I don't know if we can just get that. I think I have to move the camera a little bit, so I'll do that for you. There we go. There we go. You can see it now. Just trying to get the focus for you. Trying to focus on the background for some reason. This is what my camera does, unfortunately. It has a little bit of a schism from time to time. I'm going to try and cheat it. Just bear with me one moment. There's another way I can cheat. Just move the item a little bit more into the frame. There we go. Now we have it. Now you can see the the thing I'm talking about. So yeah, we've got this Eduard zoom kit for the instruments, and it really did work out really nicely. Apart from that, it's pretty much stock. It's really interesting, you know, it's quite an educational build because obviously it's a very unusual subject. We've got here this rather nicely done, and I did some quite good techniques on this for once. I made a bit more effort with this one. This was given to me as a gift about 7 years ago, I think now. Oops, it says knocking it over. And I did some work, like you can see here, we've got this tail section is actually mounted on like a wooden plinth. And I did some weathering effects on the wooden plinths for the one that holds up the rocket motor and the tail section. Came out really well. And the actual proportionality and the sort of the quality of the actual moulding and the sprues was really excellent. The figuring was excellent, the finish was excellent. It just has this one glitch, which is this problem, and it nearly crept into the second category, but I thought no, I enjoyed it, building it so much I thought I'm going to put it in the top category. So really enjoyed it, really looks brilliant. Everybody comments about how nice this one looks, and it's unusual of course. So that is the Messerschmitt 163B Comet from Meng, first of my favourites. The second favourite, I'm just going to move that back, just bear with me a moment. There we go, let's upset anything. Second favourite has got to be the one just in the foreground of it, which is the Tamiya, and this is a very recent release as well actually. This is their, sorry, I'll bring you in a little bit here. There we go. So this is the Tamiya Messerschmitt 109G6. Now this is something that came out only about 2 years ago and is a brilliant little model. Now this is unusual in that, well, you can see I've got some little figures on here. I've got a couple of guys from ICM who are working on the motor or the engine here. I'll turn it around for you so you see the other side as well. Be very careful. There we go. There we are. So it's an absolute corker because this has got this interchangeable technology which Tamiya have applied from their, or moved across from their 132 scale kits, where they use magnets to attach things, and they've used it here. So we've got those cowls that are open, you can probably see a fair old bit of detail here. I'll just move this back a tad. There we go, you can just about make it out. There we are. How's that? And these cowls are open, but they're actually all attached with magnets, and the whole assembly will actually just come off. Get my camera back, sorry, a little camera trouble here. There we go. The whole assembly will come off, and you can put closed cowls on, so you don't have to have it open, which is really good, you know, and you can interchange them without having to use any glue, and it takes just a moment or two. It's really quite cute. I'm not going to do it all, but I'm just going to give you an example of how easy it is. You just pop it off, pop off the front cowl, and there's a magnet there, and you put it, you know, obviously you change for the alternative cowl, but it all just snaps back into place. It's very clever, I've got to say. A remarkable application of that sort of attention to detail and way of illuminating and animating the model that just isn't on the other competitor kits, you know. So I've got to say that that's something really special, and it's something we've not seen on 1/48 scale before. It's really feels like a scale down 1/32, and it's just beautiful. I mean, it went together like a dream. There's no filler in this model whatsoever. Absolute perfection. Can't speak highly enough of it, you know. And it cost £33, so it's really great value. So that is an absolute winner. So I'm going to move the Nazis out of the way now, so we don't have to look at them any longer. Let's just pop them over here. But that is a very highly recommended kit. So that's the ME109G6. Be very careful with this. Oh, I wasn't careful enough. It's alright, it's not damaged. It's the Messerschmitt Comet. It balances very lightly. It has to be very carefully placed. Just bear with me, and I shall be with you in 2 seconds. There we go. Back on there. Back on there. Right, we're done. Okay, sorry about that. Next one. Next one up is, well, we could actually go either way with these. We've got two models that are actually very similar, of course. And it's Tamiya's 12th scale P51D and the Spitfire Mk9C. So I think we'll bring in, let's bring that out. I'm going to bring in the Mustang here. And I got to say, this was amazing. Now, it's a very unusual kit, this, because this is not the standard version of the kit. This is actually metallised from the factory, because I wanted to have a finish that was really metallic and yet looked kind of realistic, but I was aware it can look a bit toy-like, but I knew I was going to do one or two little shaded areas and different panels to give it some relief and some character, but I wanted it to look like a modern warbird rather than a weathered, you know, World War II effort, even though it's in those sort of markings. So just moving it in here for you. I think you can get a gist for this now. It's really got beautiful proportions, and you know, the scale likeness of it is really nice. I can't fault it, to be honest. You know, you've got the panels opening, you've got the machine gun covers opened, the engine's on display. Look here, you can clearly see those machine gun belts even. And then, again, this wouldn't work, this concept wouldn't work if it wasn't the standard of Tamiya. Now, what do I mean by that? you've got metallisation. So when the parts arrive, and this is an interesting point for a lot of people who haven't experienced this one, everything's metallised apart from the engine components, but all the major body airframe, it's metallised, both sides. So to actually glue this model together, you have got to remove that layer of metallisation just on the contact points. So this is actually, it required quite a lot of high precision by me in terms of actually just very carefully scraping away only on those areas that are going to contact together. And this is very time consuming, and you have to be really careful. I had to have a very sharp blade. I kept changing the blade, but it worked beautifully. There's no filler in this, there are no gaps, there's no faults or seam problems whatsoever. It looks absolutely stunning, and I really enjoyed building it. It did take a long time. I probably built this in total, it probably took 2 months work full time. If you added it all together, it'd be like working for 2 months just building a model. So that's like, 60 days basically of work. Pretty much 55-60 days. It was a lot of hours, In fact, I think this is actually my longest ever build, and I calculated it out at 320 hours, I think, total. It's the longest build ever. Now, the reason it's the longest, I can't actually show you, because unfortunately, I've added lots of weathering and things like, not on the exterior, but on the interior. In the cockpit, I've got this beautiful wooden floor effect, which I did by hand. And lots of sort of little scuffs and marks and detailing, and to my horror I hadn't realised until I came to the last stages of the build that this is all just completely hidden at the end. So I reckon about a third of that, maybe 40% of the hours I put into this are now gone. You cannot see them, but it's there, and it's in, and you can see the guns detail and all the ammo belts and some of the engine details as well. I can pick it up actually just to give you a little bit more of a look. See, beautiful figurine. The proportions of it are just absolutely splendid. It's a beauty. It's the P51 Cadillac of the skies, and I'm very pleased with it, I've got to say. It was a bit of a risky thing to do it in that form, because it brought all these additional complications. So you could argue that I saved time on the weathering and on the painting, metallic painting, but you can see I've got different panels. It's may not be so obvious on the camera. Different panels have got different shades to give it relief and stuff, but I'm delighted with the way it came out. Very, very pleased with it, and a beautiful model. But it comes in two versions. You can have the standard version that's not metallised, and you can put your own finish on it. You can do the green finish or whatever. But an absolute beauty. And again, you have these panels where you've got magnets and pins that slot in. Everything's interchangeable. You can have it in a flight position on stand, or you can have it on its undercarriage as it is here. But it's an absolute beauty, and highly, highly recommended. And in a similar vein, really, almost a very similar kit, we have the Supermarine Spitfire, of course. So it's the Spitfire Mark 9. Now, obviously this came out in 2009. It was the first of the new generation of Tamiya kits. So I'm just going to move these so I can focus on one at a time. Let's just have a little shuffle around it. I'll just move that over. You notice I've got it on this sort of diorama grassy strip stand, which I quite like them actually. I think it's Coastal model kits make those. They're really good. So yeah, the Spitfire. It's an absolute beauty. Now I sort of upgraded this with a number of little extras, particularly on the engine. If you look carefully, you can see we've got the Rolls-Royce nameplates. We've got some pipes and wiring that are not included in the original kit, and I found it a little bit tricky. Now this, I mentioned, was actually manufactured in 2009. It was released in November 2009. This is a kit that lots of people have built, and I'm sure have enjoyed building. I had a little tiny challenge, which I didn't have with the Mustang, around the mounting of the engine, mounting it into the fuselage. It was quite tricky, and I'm still not sure why, whether it was a tolerance thing, whether I got some paint, a little bit more paint on it than I should have, but it was very, very tricky. We've got some HGW belts in there, which are really quite special. But apart from this slight challenge of just plugging in the motor, everything else was just a dream, to be quite honest. We have there a resin door, which is actually from I'm trying to think who the resin guys was. It wasn't Edward. They'll come back to me in a moment. Come back to me. But we had the resin door. We had the seat belts that are added, but not much else. You know, the kit was just perfect, really. And you know, it kind of went together like a dream. If you have a look underneath, see, I've got the invasion stripes. It's one of those designs where the stripes are just under, and then the half stripe design at the back. And it's quite an interesting aircraft. This is actually a rendition of the aircraft flown by a chap called Charlie Fox. Charlie Fox was a Canadian, and he was flying with the 7th Tactical Air Force over in France, in Normandy. He is the pilot who strafed and shot up, seriously injuring Field Marshal Rommel, and took him out of the war. And then they needed Rommel, the Nazis needed Rommel, even though he wasn't a Nazi, and that's a story in itself. But they needed him like they never had before, and unfortunately Charlie Fox here with this particular aircraft shot up his staff car in a village ironically called St Montgomery, would you believe, on the Liverpool Road, and I think one of his drivers killed, I think, and one of his lieutenants was badly injured, and so was Rommel badly injured. So they had a really rough time, and this is the aircraft that did the damage. So that is a very unusual markings. I had to source them from TechMod in Poland. They weren't available. I had to make them up and make up the serial numbers as well. So it's all been bespoke done, that. But that was just personal choice. You could have had the Johnny Johnson version, which looked absolutely great as well, you know. And they had a French version and a version in India, I think it was, or Indochina. But it was a really nice model, you know, just faultless really. Exactly what you'd expect. An absolute dream for a modeller to build something, especially after these other difficult ones that I've had. It was fantastic, you know. So I just can't praise that highly enough. It's quite superb, to be frank. Go out and buy that one. I know it's not cheap. It's around 100 quid still today. So that's about, you know, 140, 130, 140 dollars and 120 euro, something like that. Maybe 110 euro. But fantastic, you know. And this is the standard of Tamiya. It just goes together perfectly. You can do all these extras and put this extra detail because you're not having to fight the model. You're not fighting it. You've made it, and you put that effort and that skill instead of having to waste it into just a build. You put that into making it special and adding some details. And you can see I've done some very fairly gentle weathering, but it's nicely weathered. I think it's got some panel wear, and you know, there's some wear of the footways and things like that. So both these two, you won't go wrong with either of them. And the very interesting point that the programme on Channel 4, the Spitfire factory that's on at the moment in the UK. And they show them rebuilding the engine, the Merlin engine for the Spit, and I was absolutely astonished. Only on 2 nights ago, and I watched it, and it was just amazing to watch and see just how much went into the detail, which was absolutely spot on the Spitfire that's in this kit. It's dead on. It's perfect. Finally, last but not least, it's the American Thunderbolt P-47, the Razorback. Do you know what? This is actually my favourite model of the lot. The reason simply being, this cost me £20. In fact, I lied, it was actually a gift, but it did cost £20. But this just went together like a dream, and it's such a nice model. It's so accurate. Comes with everything you need. It's got a sliding canopy, a nicely detailed interior, great weapons underneath, and frankly, it's my favourite build of all time because I had just no expectation, and it just fell together beautifully, and I really enjoyed it. It looks so nice and so accurate, I just couldn't fault it. So there we go. So it's only a 48 scale, obviously it's not a big glamorous one like the others, but I cannot fault it. I cannot, you know, praise it highly enough. It's got lovely decals, really good scheme, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So there we go. That's the good, the bad and the ugly. Hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in tomorrow to find out some models that are not so good, and we'll go through those, and you can see and hear about some of the challenges I faced in building them. So hope you enjoyed the show. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Please tune in again. If you like the video, please like and share and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Thanks very much for tuning in, and hope to see you soon with part 2. In the meantime, thanks a lot, and bye for now.